Things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news. Plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world. All in one place, RTV.network.
The voice of Florida. Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Wow, c'est choix nous.
Tu voz es nuestra elección.
Ta voix, c'est notre choix.
The voice of Florida.
La voz de la Florida.
Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Welcome and good morning to another edition of The Voice of Florida, where your voice is your choice. I'm just so excited this morning because, as you know, we're in a new month, haven't seen you in a little while, but here we are today. I am so blessed this morning to have two of Florida's most impactful, dedicated, hardworking, civil and social service workers, educators, and just edifying people across the state, doing all that they can as leaders. Today, we're talking about the diverse group, one being the Caribbean Haitian Democratic Caucus of Florida. And the second guest today will be the caucus of the Caribbean Democratic Party caucus as well. This morning, my first guest is my sister, my beloved sister, president of the Haitian Democratic Caucus of the state of Florida, Hedda Pia Joseph. Good morning, blessings, my sister. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Green. I'm well, and yourself?
I'm so honored to have you here, and thank you as always for that beautiful smile. So this morning, we're here the day before the first presidential debate. But before we get into that event, I just wanted to introduce folks to you and just to have them know the role you play in the state of Florida. Not only are you the state president of these multiple wide involved caucus body, but you also was a delegate you are serving as a delegate for the Kamala Harris's campaign. And you were there as well, there with us in Chicago. It was awesome. Again, thank you for serving in your capacity, but tell us a little bit about the Haitian Democratic Caucus and your role.
Okay. Well, my name is once again Hedda Pia Joseph, and I'm the president of the Democratic Haitian Caucus of the state of Florida. My role is to organize the Haitian voting base in the state of Florida, to get Haitians elected and to kind of have Haitian issues, right? We're all Black, but we're not monolithic. There are issues, even as Caribbeans, there are issues that are specific to us as Caribbeans, and we all know the plight of Haiti. And as voters, it's important that other communities don't forget their native land, right? So it's important that we, as we vote, we allow collectively for those that we are electing into office to hear our voice. So that's my main focus, is to just get us engaged. I'm Caribbean as well, but and I just think we're kind of regional. right? They put us in regions. So I think our focus needs to be as Caribbean and Haitian people, to be statewide, and then collectively our voices will impact those that we put into our local races, our state races, and as well as the national race. And so, in a nutshell, that is just my job, to organize the community locally, to get them engaged in the political process.
Thank you so much, Heather. So one of the things that we have been trying to do over the years, as many of you know, I have served in this capacity as Caribbean Coalition Director and leading this initiative for a while, not only from a political space, but for social or disasters and just our overall priorities. As you mentioned, we're from the same Caribbean basin, but because of linguistics or different cultures and or crises or urgencies are different, right? And one of the unique things about Florida, as you have also lived in different states, is that Florida is, in fact, the melting pot. It is no more that place where only retirees come, but it has long been and has almost the same space that New York had back in the 70s and the 60s. Florida is now that demographic mass home of so many people. And also not just for those coming in for retirement, but for education. I speak of that because Heather here is also an educator, one who's teaching our students in school. Heather, let me also ask you this, because one of the objectives you mentioned is making sure that Haitian priorities are addressed and getting Haitians elected. Do you see this as a priority, and tell me why?
Yes, it's a priority because Haitians have been mistreated for so long, right? I've been in this country. The first boatload of Haitians documented, right? As I'm traveling up and down the state, the first boatload documented was in December 1973 off the coast of Pompano Beach. But the Haitians tell me, no, Heather, my brother came in 68, 69. So we were sneaking in prior to getting caught. However, it's always been blight. I'm not in this role or in this position for me. I'm here based on pain and lived experiences. I was one of those boat kids that in the 80s and the late 70s that you saw, and you forget about them. So I know the plight of the migrant, the refugee, the immigrant. Things don't really change, right? For political reasons, South Florida, even Miami may have some of those resources. But when you get out of Miami and West Palm and you go a little north, or even Homestead doesn't have the services that they need. And so for me, it's important. I have assimilated quite well, but my last name is Pierre. Suffering is suffering. So I think it's important that we address the issues for the Haitian community throughout the state of Florida, because their needs still aren't being met. In Orlando, for example, Orange County, the balance aren't in Creole. Out of the Caribbean, some of them, but most of them, most Haitians, we speak French or Creole. English is really not a language. And so most of the other Caribbean, I was born in the Bahamas, so as a Bahamian too, we speak English. So I think it's easier for other groups in the Caribbean to assimilate. It's far different for Haitian Americans to assimilate because of the language barriers.
Interesting, because I have long celebrated Haiti for the sovereignty of freedom. Like I was born in Jamaica, as many of you know, but Haiti actually was one of the first to emancipate themselves from what was known as slavery, with Toussaint having led the revolution back then, as it was in my own country with Nani leading in the Maroons. So I am familiar with the plight. I'm also familiar with the challenges that our Haitian community has faced, not just from political asylum seekers, but because of the devastations, regrettably, that climatic change has caused Haiti, and just because of the economic hardship and the political unrests that have happened for decades in your country. And as a historian, I could go back to say this all started from the a whole lot of causes, right? So we're here today having seen history, not wanting to go back for so many ways. Even the slogan of what Kamala Harris now has, we're not going back, right? We're advancing the causes, not just TPS, but the advancement of educating our Haitians, making sure that Haitians not only move from having the extension of TPS, but also just just how they have advanced. Many folks don't realize the contributions that happened even in Boston, a developed city that was also built by Haitians, for the most part, fundamentally, in Louisiana. So there is such a rare lack of information that has come from this body. Unlike others, we talk about Haitians and Caribbean. And I have a problem with that because you know who I am already, inclusive. I know the Haiti is in the Caribbean, but because of the difference, it's the same thing like Cuban Americans, Haitian Americans, Caribbean Americans, right? The bottom line is that your plight, like Cuba, has had varying political crises outside of the climatic dramas and dilemmas. Hedda, how encouraged are you now with where we are projecting to have this nominee in Kamala Harris, one who is also of immigrant descent like you and I? How are you feeling a sense of assurance, or what are you sensing from this selection?
I am hopeful, but I'm not disillusioned, right? As you're walking the streets, voter turnout is at a record time low throughout the state amongst Black people, minorities. That's troublesome for me. You made a point where VP Harris says we're not going back, but we have to also understand history repeats itself. Ever so often, the heads are so the rhetoric. So I am hopeful. I am hopeful, but what I am a little apprehensive about is everyone does not feel included in the democratic process. And so I think for the next 58 days that we have left, we need to focus on making sure we create spaces and we make sure we don't like to hear it, but we make sure people are heard on their issues. And then after we're heard, like Michelle Obama said, we can't be Goldilocks at this time. We need to make the best choice. There is clearly a better candidate. The other person should not. He defies all things of leadership. He has polluted our political system. He represents the lowest of humanity.
I agree.
And so for that, I'm hopeful, but we got work to do. I'm not going to buy the hype and stuff. We need to knock on doors. We need to make sure we have a plan, people to get out to vote. They've removed people from the voting rolls. So I love her. I'm excited for her. God does things in mysterious ways, right?
That's right.
Caribbean descent, Indian descent. America is so anti-immigrant.
Yes. Oh, sister, preach today.
And God is giving them a Black Indian, like an immigrant, a child that came from immigrant parents.
That's right.
And so I'm hopeful, but we have work to do.
I know that, and I'm having chills just with that explanation of reason. For so many reasons, the truth that you just described. I'm also aware that you are driving an active force with your involvement in your capacity as leading the Haitian caucus, where you're now looking at engaging with these you just described. What are you doing ahead of this election cycle, 50 days, 58 days in? What is the Haitian caucus doing across the state to guarantee or to help advance this victory in November?
I am NAACP Red. So shout out to NAACP.
That's right.
And it's just ground roots. I'm not concerned about you and I, Karen, those who understand your points. Even when I'm upset, right? The party's not perfect. I'm still going to vote.
I know.
I'm concerned about those that are upset and those who don't vote and those who don't care. So what we're doing is we're canvassing. We're meeting people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And we are phone banking.
That's right.
I know in Miami-Dade, I don't have the numbers, but we need to really find numbers. 200,000 people were kicked off the voting rolls in Miami-Dade.
Wow.
I wonder how many people have been kicked off the voting rolls. So in my individual capacity, right, and that's why I like to share action items. Everyone needs to go and verify that they're registered to vote.
Right.
We all need to be responsible for our neighbors and for our community. Don't believe the hype. If this election is closed, we will have another Al Gore and George Bush
We
situation.
can't have that. Can't have
We
that.
can't have
I'm not driving back to Broward County to count ballots. It's not happening. We need to have a decisive victory. Talk to them, sister.
it needs to be a two-step plan. So I'm sharing my little secrets with you all. So the first step is from now until October, until the deadline for registration, we need to make sure everyone's registered. We need to start talking to our neighbors. Number one, after that October deadline, we need to make a plan in getting people to the polls.
That's right. So on that note, Heather, let us remind voters in the state of Florida that the timeline, you have until October 7th to register to vote in the state of Florida to be able to vote for November 5th. You have until October 7th to register to vote. You can do that as early as today. Please register to vote. And if you choose to vote by mail, it's always the easiest and most convenient way to do it. You get a sample ballot mailed out to many of you. But my thought is, and with you head on this, it is imperative that we remind folks what is at stake, why they should be involved, and particularly talking to our community. Because only yesterday, Donald Trump, the former president, mentioned and declared that anyone who did not support him, he listed a group of folks, as it was with Hitler and others before him, like Mussolini and others, that he would in fact penalize, prosecute, and punish people who did not support him. And he listed folks, even the media. He said folks who did not support him. And here's where I know this fellow is not always a truth teller, but the fellow is like this. The first persons he lied to in the state of Florida and across this country when he was elected is the Haitian community in Miami-Dade. I remember because I was in the core of that campaign when he said that he was going to extend TPS for then the earthquake victims and what was happening in Haiti. He did that and in Florida. And the first thing he did, the first almost pen stroke, was to say he was going to make sure that we all went back to our SHIT countries. And he listed the countries with Haiti as a priority, basically pausing the life-changing humanitarian necessities that these countries needed, listing all African countries. Realistically, he has promised us mass deportations. So we need to be reminding folks, it's not just our literacy, it's not just women's issues, but Hedda, what are the issues that Haitian Americans are concerned about, particularly in the state of Florida?
Oh, we are upset about Haiti. We are absolutely livid intergenerationally. We are in tears, meaning, and I use this example like Kodak Black is Haitian, right? And so when you hear Kodak Black talking about, I want to be president of Haiti, when we have a English Haitian, talk. And so when you see these kids that were born in Little Haiti, born in Miami, born in Broward County, born in here, and they're adults, they're young adults, and their comments like, why are they treating us like this? So we have been to see God will allow people to mistreat you.
Ooh, preach.
For you to be uncomfortable. We have been complacent. The level of violence in the Caribbean creates the instability. And so for us, these are U.S. assault rifles. Listen, I'm Haitian, I get it. Jamaicans, Bahamians, we fight with machetes and rocks all day long, right? All day long. However, and we've seen Haitians burn tires. I've grown up my whole life and seen violence in Haiti, my entire life. I was born in exile. My mother died fleeing in exile.
Wow.
So I know what violence is, but we have never, and we cannot forget as the Caribbean, we can never forget that we don't have assault rifles. How are $7,000, $14,000 assault rifles ending up in our country? That's number one, near and dear to our heart. Number two is the economy. housing, immigration is, but we learned from history, and I'll share this. When the U.S. was selling guns to Duvalier, the boatloads came. So you saw on television a boatload of Haitians fleeing, but what you didn't understand, they were fleeing from violence. So here you have an onslaught of guns again. History repeats itself. An onslaught of guns coming into the country as well. And from that, what is that going to bring? We've learned we have a country. We have Jamaica, we have Haiti, we have the Bahamas, we have our countries. They don't want us here. So for us, we want a stabilized country because there's no pathway to citizenship for Black people, for descendants of enslaved Africans.
Wow.
And so we don't want the suffering anymore. So it's not like we really want to come here. We want to stay in our country. And I think that's going to be a push and a conversation, not a conversation for now, but a conversation for day one. Because Bernie Sanders said it best at the convention in one of the caucus meetings. He's like, we have too much at stake right now to bicker and argue. We need to support VP Harris, Ohio Wells, but he says on day one, you give them HELL. So on day one, we are going to fight for our issues, but right now we need to unite with the person that we can negotiate with.
Wow, that's heavy. On that note, I can only, again, agree with you. You know, it was important to hear from you where things were. Back in 2016, then and still today, the policy advisor, Dave Sutherland, was here with us doing negotiations at the time leading into that election cycle, presidential. And I know as a fact that Haiti's priorities are a little different than others. As you just stressed, you were born in exile. And not just you, but many people, not just from the Caribbean region, but from Central and South America. It's a whole different priority when it comes to that sovereignty. I know that many Caribbean people would rather be home in their birthland, but because of economic challenges or opportunities for education, the dollar value, we know what happened with the IMF and all kinds of things in our society. But I believe, as you just rightfully said, having someone at the table who understands the immigrant story, one who's lived the American fulfilled dream of having a mother coming from India on a scholarship, a father who was a scholar studying in America from Jamaica. I'm just saying, how could we not identify with familiarity is where I'm at with you, sister. I'm excited, like you are, about where we are. And one of the things we want to stress tomorrow is also we're both having the Caribbean and Haitian community, caucus communities, have decided that they're going to be watching the debates in collaboration across the state. And I just wanted to have people realize that this is not, for us, this is diversity and inclusion. This is about us not having a difference of language, participation, but struggle. But more importantly, we share the same hope. Am I agreeing with you, sister?
Yeah.
And so if you could tell us where your watch party would be tomorrow, how they could register to vote, register to participate in the watch event for Orange County and for the other counties across the state, because I know you're doing this simultaneously as well. Heather, I forgot to ask, how many active caucus bodies do you have across the state?
We've identified 67 counties. We've identified 23 within the next year that we need to certify.
Wow.
Out of those, we have 5 that have been certified,
Yes.
and are working on 8.
Nice.
It's a process getting them certified.
Yes.
So throughout the state, our membership numbers are growing. We're about 1,500 right now throughout the state. We're asking that our website is THEDACOF.org. You can go on there and get all the information. And then, like, even we have St. Lucie County, right? Everything in St. Lucie County closes at 9 and the debate starts at 9. So we want to make this virtual. We want regular people's voices. We don't want to hear the pundits. We want you to listen to the debate. We want you to be excited about it. and we want you to come in a safe space. It's okay for you to say how you feel, right? We want you to say how you feel so we know these are some of the issues, and then let's get out and vote. So I'm so excited about having the presidential debate, because when we went to the Haitian community prior to that, a lot was like, what's a debate? Like, they didn't understand, the older generation wasn't what a debate was, because we didn't include ourselves in the political process. And I'm quite sure it's for the other Caribbean nations as well. And I know, Karen, you're doing a great job. So I'm excited for the Caribbean and Haitian coalition collaboration, so we
thank
can
you, my
move
sister.
forward.
You know how we get when it comes to winding down time with us Caribbean people. Listen, I love you. I thank you. And I'm supporting you, my precious sister. We will get this done. We're going to have this. And I'm looking forward to having you back, where we can not only celebrate, but continue to build on what we're working on right now, my sister. God bless you. I'll be following up with you as we move into this cycle. And we'll be back here to talk about the victories we've had and how to engage others. Thank you as a guest today on The Voice of Florida. Again, the voice you hear in Creole is also a complement of having Heather's voice on this promo ad. Thank you again, Heather, for all the work you do as a Haitian caucus. I look forward to winning, and not only winning, but supporting you again in the future. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining The Voice of Florida for the first half of our program. Your voice is our choice. God bless you.
Hello everybody, welcome back for another Healthy Minute. If you want to boost your brain health, make sure you eat more foods that are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, foods such as salmon and sardines. And if you want to increase your protein content, which is also excellent for your body, add some codfish. Fresh codfish in fact, is low in mercury, high in protein, and has a great number of vitamins and minerals. For this Healthy Minute, I'm Dr. Hafizullah. See you again soon. Thank you for watching. Please remember to click subscribe for the latest videos and updates. See you soon.
Today we're taking a little vacation on the west end of St. Croix, visiting a seaside restaurant called the Beachside Cafe here at Sandcastles on the Beach.
The atmosphere is just wonderful.
You just feel very welcome when you're here.
Hi! I'd like to introduce Chris and Ted, who are the owners of Beachside Cafe and also Sandcastles on the Beach. This is amazing!
Thank you.
Sandcastle on the Beach is quiet and friendly, relaxing.
I often entertain guests, and this is the one place I always try to bring people.
Tell us a little bit about the hotel.
Well, the hotel is a 25-room hotel. We have 10 different room types within that. We also have, of course, our greatest asset, the ocean out there, which our side of the island is very calm typically. So it's the best swimming beach and also great for snorkeling.
And just walking, doing a nice walking beach tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best beach access is right here, so we love them.
And we're also fortunate we have just up the way Sandy Point National Park, and then Frederickstead Town is just a mile away. Mm-hmm. And so we're really fortunate to be in this perfect spot.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
The voice of Florida. Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Wow, c'est choix nous.
Tu voz es nuestra elección.
Ta voix, c'est notre choix.
The voice of Florida.
La voz de la Florida.
Your voice is our choice with Dr. Karen Green.
Welcome back to the second portion of our program today, The Voice of Florida, where your voice is your choice. I am joined this afternoon with one of my favorite people in the state of Florida, my brother who fights for the cause, who stands up for liberation, freedom, and really just representing our demographic here in the state of Florida. And this is none other than my brother, Glenn Joseph, who serves as the president of the Caribbean Democratic Caucus. Welcome, Glenn. How are you?
Good morning. Welcome. I am fine. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, and I'm excited that you're here because we have a few things to talk about this morning. One, welcome back to shore, brother. Welcome back to land. I know you meant to step away to see the mountain from a distance. And so welcome back. As you know, tomorrow we're excited about having a discussion or watching the discussion of our presidential nominee. Had a few questions for you this morning, Glenn. In your capacity, steering the state's Caribbean Democratic Caucus, which unlike other specific caucuses, you represent all of the Caribbean nations within the Caribbean belt. What exactly do you see your role as in your capacity?
I see my role as pulling together all of the elements of the Caribbean, all of the ethnicities within the Caribbean. It's a difficult task because, we all have our geographic alignment and we tend to remain within those confines. So the task is to bring them out from, there's a lot of problems why people don't gravitate towards the Caribbean, particularly in South Florida, because it's perceived as just one ethnicity controlling everything. And we have to change that paradigm because we're all important. The numbers that we have in the state of Florida, particularly in South Florida, are significant enough for us to be able to have an impact. We did it before and we didn't have the numbers we had now. So, it's a task, but, I will do my best to live up to the task and try to bring everyone together.
Thank you so much for applying that unity initiative, because I've experienced that over the years I've known you, that you have been inclusive, not only by including those of different cultures, but also faith, as well as just the language barrier that we have in the Caribbean. One of the things, for example, here on this program this morning, our previous guest was the chair of the Haitian Democratic Caucus, who in fact is speaking Creole and French. And Glenn, what folks don't realize is that it is only because of these variances, their languages and or their specific political and or social issues, why everyone is not under the Caribbean belt. Because in reality, the Caribbean Sea touches everybody, right?
It does, and you know it's ironic because, as you know, I'm one of the three founding advocates of Caribbean Heritage Month, and in the lead up to that, we were able not only to get it passed through Congress, but in the first couple of years to kind of unite all of the region. Because when we put together the initiative, we considered all 5 languages of the Caribbean. And you know, because if we didn't do that, you didn't have capacity and you wouldn't be recognized. And ever since then, everyone has picked up Caribbean American Heritage Month as a belonging to them. And that's fine, but we need to take it to the next step, which is yes, it belongs to you, but it belongs to all of us. And we need to, you know, in unity there's strength.
That's
and
right.
we need to pull ourselves together.
You know, folks don't understand the importance of the Caribbean Alliance. As I said before, many of you know this has been my priority for many years. The Caribbean Sea is seen as the third border of these United States. And by that, it means not just from economic pieces, but from political pieces as well. Because in reality, the Caribbean basin for many years, decades ahead, was where Cuba was. Cuba was seen as the aggressor next to Russia, next to us here. Now there is not only political concerns, but there's economic wealth. There is social, economic tourism. There's so many resources that comes from our area that folks don't realize. And I think maybe correct me, Glenn, it could be that they do realize why it has become such a concern to so many.
It is, and then you know that third border thing has been out here for quite some time, and a lot of people don't understand why we're the third border. In addition to the social, economic, and other factors, the most important to the United States is security, national security and trade. Yes, and so you know we have a role to play. We need to accept that role, or maybe we need to further define that role so that people would understand exactly what we're trying to say. And you know, all we can do is keep doing, keep trying, and maybe with this unity, this new Freedom Trust through the Vice President. And when we win this election, people will realize that, you know, in unity there's strength, and we need to all get together, because when the other folks look at us, all they see is black. They don't see anything. I mean, take for instance the Tyreek Hill yesterday incident just before the Dolphins game. All right, it was two or three white or Spanish officers who were on loan to Miami Gardens, who saw, you know, he's right outside the stadium. They say he was driving erratically. I don't believe that was the problem. I believe the problem was Tyreek he wears dreadlocks. He had on a vest, but he was driving $100,000 car, which to them is a problem because they can't do it. And you know, so it was. I think it was social. It was a profiling issue. And you know, Drew Rosenhaus will deal with it. He's been in this game a long time, and it wasn't only Tyreek alone; it was 3 others.
Glenn, that's just one of the challenges that people of color in this country have always faced. It's not just today, and this is one of the things why the slogan to me, "We're not going back," is so imperative. It is so fundamental, a reminder that we cannot go back to anything we've experienced, not only persecution, segregation, deportations, unwarranted deportations, as we've heard. Glenn, I know you represent one of the nations in the Caribbean that has its own challenges, but also its own wealth. And it has, within the last 3 decades, established itself with its own independence for many, in many ways. You know, the Haitian president of the caucus established just now, one of her initiatives is to make sure that Haitians are elected and that they're engaged in the process for their well-being. The Caribbean community, in my opinion, in the state of Florida, the English-speaking Caribbean community, has had the most elected representation within the state, particularly in South Florida.
Yes.
Glenn, what would you say today as your immediate objective for the Caribbean Democratic Caucus?
Well, first of all, is to get the most participation out of the Caribbean community in this election, because people have a tendency to not want to vote because they haven't done anything for us, blah 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 blah. But the objective here is to drag everyone to the polls, register everyone we can, drag everyone to the polls. Even if we have to get a wheelbarrow to carry them because they're too heavy, we need to try to do that, because this is a very critical election, and right about now, Florida is in play. And we can play a major role in it.
Repeat that, Glenn. Repeat that last statement. Florida is
in play because, that's why DeSantis has sent out his police to try to intimidate people to not vote for. It's more than just not voting for Amendment 4. It's to deflate and divert people away from the fact that Florida is in play, and we can play a major role in that. But we also, the responsibility is not only on us, it's also on the party and the campaign to ensure that they do the right thing when they come into South Florida and not do the status quo. One thing I need to point out, Karen, on the scrolling, there's an error there because it has Dade County, it has Glenn Joseph, who is president of the Dade County president of the Caribbean Caucus. It's the state, because the Caribbean Caucus is the state Democratic Caucus.
My brother, you know how I stand corrected by every educator in this country. And again, I apologize for the technical error on that.
Not a problem. I just pointed out because people observing it will.
Let us be clear. Mm-hmm. Glenn Joseph represents he serves as the state president of the Caribbean Democratic Caucus. Not only does he serve as a state president, but he's also one of the foundation members of the Caribbean Caucus nationally. Beyond that, he's also served on a committee that I chaired, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee here in the state of Florida through the FDP, for the Democratic Party. And Glenn has been fundamentally behind the scenes in many a campaign's victory, many a support and mentorship of many candidates in the state. Glenn, let me also just remind folks and ask you for your support. As I said, Heather just mentioned what she wants to achieve. Let me ask you, what do you want your legacy, having served in your capacity and continue to do this? What do you see within 2024 that on January in 2025, you want to be remembered as having done?
Having done my best to ensure that the Caribbean community gets the recognition that it deserves and the support that it deserves to execute the charges that we have.
I concur. I think one of the things that I also wanted to talk to you is that where do people, I asked Heather earlier, what do you see as the 3 top priorities for the Caribbean American voter that we could message to them to remind them why this is so critical? We hear it all the time. This is the most important election. But unlike any other, I can say today, having served not only for this president in a delegate capacity, but for previous presidents, basically saying, I know that we see elections as always critical and more important. But Glenn, remind folks just how pivotal a time it is in our history, that this election is truly the epicenter of what could very well advance our lives or retract every advancement civil rights or leaders have made in the last 50 years.
This current election is the most important election of our lifetime. The fact of the matter is that this man, the orange monster, has not been hiding his intention. It is said that when people show you and tell you who they are, believe them, because that's who they are. His objective is revenge and personal gratification and personal wealth. He has amassed significant wealth by being president of the United States, and that's his intention. He wants to get back there because of the extent of his legal liability and the fact that he could very well be imprisoned if he's not the president. So that's the reality. The other reality is that the services that we get locally are the most important thing that we vote for. And we have got to impress upon our people that if they vote locally, voting nationally and statewide is not an issue. We have a lot of people who say politics, I don't get involved in politics. Politics is not for me. Well, the air you breathe has a political connotation. Every facet of your life, every action that you have to be involved in has a political element. Politics is in the air we breathe. So, we need to pay attention, and our responsibility too is to educate folks on the importance of voting in municipal elections. And if we do that, our task on the national and presidential and gubernatorial won't be as difficult.
Glenn, on that point of educating or elected, do you think this is an opportunity for us to really, not only in our endorsement, but also for those representing our priorities or our communities, do you think it's a time now for us to really call for a session to speak to our elected and to remind them of our independent or individual priorities? As I said before, one of the questions I was asking you is, what 3 top items do you think the Caribbean Democratic Caucus needs to be building a message around as it relates to our priorities?
In another time, I would have said convene an elected conference of elected officials and leaders, because the last one we had, I think, was in '94, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. But over time, with the amount of elections that I have participated in one way or the other, the quality and the intent of our elected needs a real adjustment. People get elected for the wrong reason. They either get elected because they want to be called a commissioner or they want to achieve some other objective. They use it as a stepping stone to somewhere. It has to be, public service is probably the most difficult thing to get them to understand, because if you have an election today and at 9 o'clock in the night there are no results, you can tell a candidate, elected official, anything, and they will believe you. At 11 or 12 o'clock, as soon as those results are announced, you can't say anything to them because they get an epiphany and they know everything.
Wow.
And that's the problem with our elected officials. They think they know everything. Everything must be done their way or the highway, and that's a problem.
Well, Glenn, on that note, I just know that one of the things we need to do is to have these people be accountable. So it's not that we have these sessions preemptively, but we need to have reminder sessions, as I would say, remedial training. Because in reality, we need to be, just as how they have sessions where they go into to their session of service, we need to have residual demands so that when we're saying we're asking for our votes now, we preemptively schedule our next meetings of advisory councils. So I would strongly recommend, having served in this capacity, that I too have been elected, but I'm saying to you that it is contingent on our voters while we be given any responsibilities, right? Yeah. I'm suggesting today in my role to you as one who's served in this caucus, I believe we need to set a calendar, my brother, of those who are elected to come back to us for advisory council, and or broken promises would be invalidated. Because if we're choosing you to represent our values and you no longer see them as worthy or causable, then Glenn, what are we going to do with these people?
I have been trying to figure that out, because one of the greatest challenges I have had as president of the state caucus is to get the elected officials to be involved. Our elected officials to be involved. I have met with several of them one-on-one.
Well, in the time we have to wrap up this morning's presentation and talking to folks and hearing your voice, I'm saying to you that this is probably one of the strategic next incentives that we need to propose to these folks, is that we have a building block. We have a voting block that if every Caribbean person in this country votes, we are at 10%. We're double digits.
Exactly.
That was the last census. We're probably beyond 14%. This is just my reckoning by observation. Is that would change any electoral cycle. And so we need to get to the place where the Caribbean region, not only for its tourism attraction or for the oil that builds to our countries or for the wealth that comes from industrial collaboration or agriculture, but also from the intellectual wealth that comes from our region, right?
Yes.
That we need to remind folks that you're getting our vote today is not a sign off on longevity, right? So Glenn, we're going to have to create some kind of forum beyond here. I need for you to plug the upcoming event that we have. We're going to be taking the time not only to listen to the debates tomorrow evening.
Exactly, yes.
To promote and invite folks to get there. So Glenn, can you do that in a 1-minute plug for us, please?
Sure. The Caribbean Democratic Caucus and the Caribbean Pulse have a watch party tomorrow evening. It starts from 8 to 11. It's at La Veranda Restaurant and Bar, 8320 West Sunrise Boulevard, Suite 115. That's in Plantation, and the zip code, if you need to find to get there, is 33322. It's important that we get together in these kinds of environments so that we can begin to build that mold that we need to build in order to expand our reach and return to the glory that we enjoyed in the year 2000 and around the year 2000.
I could never ask for a better plug than that, my brother. So we have a few minutes to wind down, but let me just also take a moment to thank you for your service. You know, folks don't realize that these services are not paid ventures. It is a contribution of the heart, determination, and dedication. And just because you want to leave a legacy for your folks who came to this country, folks don't realize that we didn't just bring our music, right, Glenn? We brought we brought everything else that we brought to this continent. And we're celebrating this because we are, in fact, America was built by immigrants. Contrary to what anybody believes, you didn't just come from Trinidad with your steel drums, right?
There are 21 firsts in the United States that are Caribbean generated. As from the White House to the Treasury Secretary to the discovery of medical discoveries and other firsts. So no, we have a history. As much as that orange monster wants to talk about immigrants built this country. And, you know, he has a wife who's an immigrant, that he was able to bring her entire family as immigrants. So I want to know if he's going to deport them too.
Well, my brother, here's the thing. On this program here on The Voice of Florida, as you know, part of the constitutional freedom we have in this country is free speech. And that's so right. I said it to you before that here on The Voice of Florida, your voice is our choice. And that is how we will continue to roll this program. So even though my brother called these persons down at Mar-a-Lago by an orange name, that's his call. My position is truly that he is a wannabe dictator. And I am worried that if he's reelected, that the freedoms we've come to know that naturalization of a U.S. citizen to this country, if you're of color, if you're an immigrant that did not cross his own threshold, that you will be, in fact, having to face those kind of concerns of deportation. That's one of my primary concerns, my brother. And so this morning, I just want to thank you again, Glenn, for always being a voice, for leading and standing up for what you believe in, and representing not only your red, black, and white flag, but your red, white, and blue flag, and standing up for all the flags that govern and sovereign our sovereign Caribbean nations. God bless you, Glenn.
Thank you. The way I say it is, I'm a world citizen, a Caribbean man who happened to be born in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you so much for joining the Voice of Florida. Again, viewers, we want to thank you for sharing with us today another day of the Voice of Florida, where your voice is our choice. Look forward to seeing you next week. Let us watch the debates tomorrow. And please remember to vote in Florida. Register by October 7th. God bless you all. Thank you again for joining this program today.
Thanks, God.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.